Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Thank you very much for joining us live. Hugh McDonald, Alan Ruff, and I'm delighted to say Livingston boss David Martindale joining us on Tuesday's programme to talk all things football. And we've got lots to talk about. I'm delighted that David is here with us to discuss Livingston in a good frame. Now, the good thing I'm going to say to you is the last thing you want is a panel full of two-faced people. So I'm going to be honest with you. I tipped you to get relegated last season. You've done us in. But hey, last season was a good season, wasn't it?
Have you tipped us to get relegated?
No, I've gone for St Johnstone.
Yeah, that's my worry this year. Nobody's tipping us.
But yeah, by the way, last season was that one of those things that you thought, this is a motivation? Here, lads, have a look at every pundit.
It's like every year, but well, maybe not so much this year. I've not really checked it this year, but it's ever since we've come back to the Premier League, it's like tip, 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 Livingston. We don't use it as motivational. Maybe individual players look at it, but we know what we've got in the building, so we know roughly where we could or where we should be in the league.
I know these guys will want to get into your head as well and talk about your football ethos, because I think, you know, over a period of time, if you go to games, if you get an insight into a team and the way they play, you know, I've watched some lazy journalist pundits suggesting off Route 1 game and all that. Well, but the point is, you get players who play some really good football on the deck. Yeah,
we're big on getting the ball down when we try to play, but if you're getting pressed and you're away at Parkhead, Ibrox, whatever, every space is in behind, so you try and utilise the space. But most teams now try and play a high press, it's energetic, so that tells you the space is generally in behind the midfield line. So there's different ways to win games of football, but I'm quite happy when media are calling us long ball Livingston, over physical Livingston. I'm quite happy with that, because it shows me they're not doing their homework, they're not doing their job properly.
Yeah, absolutely. I live on the code roughie of Glenn Hoddle and Chris Waddle. It might look like a 40-yard clearance, but to them it was a 40-yard pass to your toe. It doesn't matter, a pass is a pass.
But they probably could do that.
It'd be great if you had a few of them on your side, I have to tell you, David. Listen, lots to talk about. I want to get into the meat and bones of Livingston. We're going to pick your brains on more than a few things. We'll maybe look at some of the things that have happened last night. Certainly Liverpool and Manchester United is certainly worthwhile of your opinion, Hugh. But with this guest here, I think it's good to get an insight of a manager looking at what happens in the Scottish Premiership, what we're going to be talking about, referees. The main story we'll start off with, ahead of Rangers taking on PSV Eindhoven in the Netherlands, is Alfredo Morelos. I mean, left out of the squad completely. Big call by the manager. I suggested last week there was something afoot. Got it in the neck from a few Rangers fans, but that's the case.
Yeah, and it's obviously almost borders on a disciplinary thing that Rangers want that out there, that they have said to Morelos, your attitude's wrong, your fitness is wrong, because they could have come up with a million things. They could have taken him and played him for 5 minutes. They could have taken him and not played him at all. Or they could have left him at home and said he's got a hammy, you know. But, you know, for it to come out that the reason for him staying is basically discipline and fitness issues is a huge story. I mean, that then sets every hair running. That sets what's going to happen next. Because once the manager does that to you, the player's got two options. He buckles down and gets on with it, or he's out the door.
Yeah, and with that, Ruffy, are financial implications, because not only have you a player that you were hoping to get a set figure for, you're now at the situation where you're saying, well, he would have been a key player to help us maybe get 40 million in a group stage of the Champions League.
Yeah, we're not privy to what's going on behind the scenes. You know, the Rangers manager is the only one that can answer that. You know, that Davey will tell you, you know, it's a team game, it's not all about one player. You know, you've got another 15 players in that first team dressing room. You've got to, you know, hold in the same esteem. You know, you've got to think about them as well. So it has been muted to get a move every year. You know, this might be the time where the manager has said to him, look, now is the time, tell your agent to go and find somebody. You know, and as long as the fee is what we're looking for, then you can go, because they've got more important things to worry about than him with all the games that are coming up.
Yeah, David, as a manager, if suddenly that whole news and the way it's come out and the way that it's being portrayed with Alfredo Morelos is out there, that for me suggests that the manager has finally had it up to here. His back's against the wall and said, well, wait a minute, I've got to think of the many rather than the few.
I think it's got to be about the collective. It can't be about the individual. As soon as it becomes about the individual, you've got a problem with the collective. So that's the way I coach, it's the way I run the club. I think you'll probably find there's top players in that dressing room, and probably they're not happy with certain aspects of maybe Alfredo Morelos. So it's maybe not just Gio's decision to make. There's probably been a collective meeting of minds, so to speak, I would imagine. And I think you've got to put the collective before the individual.
Yeah.
Again, we're not privy to the information, but if it came out the way you've said, you've got to applaud Gio for the honesty, because that's the honest truth. I don't see any point in telling white lies and it maybe gets out that's not the reason he's not in the squad. So they should be applauded for the honesty. And anybody looking at Alfredo, I don't think you can have any gripes about the conditioning issues. I think it's there for everyone to see that he could be in better condition.
Yeah. As a manager, what type of manager are you? Do you try and mix it up and say, okay, this player needs a wee bit of an arm round him, this one needs a bollocking?
Yeah, but you've got to have set guidelines where nobody can go over these set guidelines, and once they go over the guidelines, it's the same for everyone. Yeah, you manage everybody different from a coaching perspective, but they've all got to fall into the fundamentals, the principles of the club. Like our use body fats for one instance. The boys over a certain percentage, and I'm not going into the percentages, but the skin folds, if they fall over that, they're not in the match day squad. And I wouldn't let people that have got the higher skin folds, that type of thing, be in the match day squad, because then they become more important in the collective. And for me, at Livingston, to get the best out of everyone, we all need to be pushing and pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, thankfully we're not operating that policy on the couch, by the way. I was just about to say, but I'm delighted Davey's not in charge here. Anyway, apart from anything else, it's a very good point, because he's out of shape.
Yeah, you can see that on the part, but I mean, you would like to think that he is professional enough to see that he's out of shape, because he's training with the other players, and the other players, as David said, they're minted. You know, they're so fit now. I mean, I see some of the even the Queen of the South boys or the Motherwell boys who come down to the David Lloyd when I'm playing tennis. They're ripped. You know, there's not one of them. You know, even down the league, there's not one of them. You could get into the second division, and they all know the standard that they've got to be at. Because if you're not at that standard, you see it at training. You see it, you're a yard or 2 yards off the pace. And if you're not up here to say, right, I need to get myself up there, then you're going to struggle.
The thing about it now is, David knows, it's all measurable. I mean, it's not as if you're saying somebody's coming in and say, how are you today? I'm feeling fit, Gaffer. Somebody's going to say, well, you ran 8,000 metres, your sprinting and training was, you were a bit short, your body fat's there, of just taking your bloods, etc. I mean, it's...
Your heart rate, timing, red zone, sprint distance, all that. Can I ask
David, I mean, I saw it down in England, I know what the things they wear, the GPSs they wear. Say if a player during the game, and you're, say, 65, 75 minutes into it, and the guy who's monitoring it says, I think his levels are dropped, and he's actually playing particularly well.
I would trust my eyes and throw the laptop at him. I think it backs up your eyes. Like, see what you see on a Saturday, and then you come into the data after the game, you're generally no wrong. Yeah. Where it helps is when you get a chap at the door, I'm not in the squad, how am I not playing? You can then put it into a wee bit of perspective for them and show them. But where I try to use it is your recovery. So time in red zone, if you're not recovering quick enough, it's showing you that it's probably time you're falling into that area now where you're probably more likely to pick an injury up, but you probably can't press and look after the ball the way we were looking for that. So certain people, you need to get them up to 90 minutes, but they might hit their time in red zone might be 65 minutes, 60 minutes type thing. You've got to look after them, but it's about the squad as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I interviewed Martin O'Neill on the programme and said to him, in the early days when we came in, that very thing about players, fitness, the whole thing, and he says, I walked in, I inherited a player, he said, never tracked back, lost the ball, if you lost the ball the odd time, never tracked back. And I thought to myself, first couple of games I'm ripping into him. He says, and then, I said, no, he turned around and he said to him, listen, is there any chance you could put a shift going now? And he says, that's not my game, right? And then he says, after the third game, he's curled one into the roof of the net, left foot, right foot, and he's Moravchik, and he thinks, right, just let him do what he wants to do.
Again, you're compensating that with the people behind him, probably. You're changing your shape slightly to fit him in.
Have you had to do that with any player?
I've probably not really. Maybe here and there, maybe, but I think with a player like Moravchik, I used to love watching Moravchik. I'm finding a system to get him in the team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at the end, the people, the 4-4-1-1, whatever it is, you're trying to keep him as high up the park as possible, give him as little defensive duties as possible, and get him the ball as often as possible.
But that doesn't really happen now, because managers are not really wanting to make adaptations. You're talking about the collective. You look at, I mean, the greatest player, a contender for the greatest player ever, was sitting on the bench for 85 minutes yesterday, because the manager said, I'm no picking about my team to get Ronaldo in it.
You're referring to that greatest player, and I get that, but it's now at this stage in his career, he's not the greatest player. So there's a difference here. If that was a Ronaldo 4 years ago, he's playing. He's playing, but I think he's lost a little bit of that. He's lost a bit of the legs. But football changes, evolution of football's progressed, it's developing. I think you're now seeing more and more athletes.
That's what I think.
In the game.
Yeah.
So it's athletic.
Is that for the betterment of the game?
I think so, but again, I think even you want to take it into refereeing. I think it's why it made refereeing so difficult, because the evolution of the game is so quick. It's quick, it's powerful.
Well, I've been going down, as you know, I've been going down doing this season and last season, David, I've been going down the leagues, doing big features down the leagues. And see, even if you can go to the Lowland League, right, and you know, it's tier 5 in Scotland, players absolutely ripped. And because you're standing at the touchline rather than high up the stand, you get the feeling of the pace and the physicality of it. And that's the 5th league in Scotland.
Yeah.
It's murderous, absolutely murderous.
It's you're looking at, I think, nutrition and hydration, just the education of society. I think everybody's a wee bit more educated with nutrition now. But to be an athlete, it's a huge part of the game.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to do without one guy who hasn't measured up, Giovanni van Bronckhorst, and it's PSV Eindhoven against Rangers. Our reporter Adam Binney's been looking ahead to the game.
Rangers face PSV Eindhoven tomorrow in the second leg of their crucial playoff round qualifying match for a place in the UEFA Champions League group stages. The sides are locked at 2-2, with the Light Blues looking to make it to the group stages of the competition for the first time since 2010. Rangers come into the game off the back of a fiery encounter with Hibs, which saw both John Lundstrom and Alfredo Morelos sent off. PSV, meanwhile, were given the weekend off by the Dutch FA in order to fully prepare for the lucrative clash, with a potential £30 million at stake. The last time Rangers travelled to Eindhoven in 2011, Walter Smith's side came away with a 0-0 draw before eventually losing out to the Dutch side at Ibrox in the second leg of their UEFA Europa League round of 16 tie. Giovanni van Bronckhorst said after the first leg that he is confident his side can go through, and we may see a similar game to last week. He will be desperate to join rival Celtic in Thursday's Champions League group stage draw to take on European football's elite.
Okay, Adam Binney looking ahead to PSV against Rangers. It's a big call. We're all going to call it. We're all going to look at potentially. We'll have a wee look at the predicted 11. Do you see him tinkering too much, David, from this? We've had a wee look at what he might do with his 11, and this is the 11 we have. Do you see him tinkering and changing it too much from McLaughlin, Tavernier, Golson, Sands, Barisic, Lundstrom, Davis, Tillman, Lawrence, Kent and Colak?
I don't know, I think it's a wee bit offensive for me. I don't know, I think Gio's proven in the past that going to a back three, hitting on the counter, albeit he's got different players now. I think Bassey played a huge part in that. I don't know, I can see him maybe tinkering with the shape, being a wee bit harder to beat, getting him on the counter. I just think the last thing you'd want to do there is go be a wee bit open, be quite offensive. You lose an early goal and then I think it's a huge struggle.
If it was for me, I think the game's screaming out for Steve Davis. Just absolutely somebody who actually can keep the ball and calm the team.
I agree with you there. I think Davis was brilliant. He came out of the team last year, came out of the team at the tail end of the season, but then I thought he was missing in European games because he just goes on, he just brings an airy calmness, but he's just, the ball's fantastic, and I think you need someone like that in the team. But Gio sees these players every day in training, so it's alright us sitting on the couch and saying this, so he obviously knows his team, but I think I don't know, will he start with a 3? Potentially 5-4-1, 3-5-2, I don't know, but I can maybe see a wee change of shape early doors, or he'll have personnel on the park that they can change the shape within the players that are on the park. like just with information getting on the park.
Yeah, one of the things I think a lot of Rangers fans were hoping is that Manchester United would have signed Gakpo before the second leg, because he impressed me, Ruffy. I think they've got 2 or 3 players that can change a game. That's my worry about it.
Yeah, I think we saw that in the first leg. You know, there's no doubt about that. In the latter third of the park, they've got quality in there, you know, but like most teams, you try to nullify that first 15, 20 minutes, try and keep the crowd quiet. You know, my main worry is they score first. And then obviously Rangers have got to try and get something and maybe come forward and spaces develop. So I'm hoping Rangers get the first goal, you know, and let's see what they've got, because the pressure's on them as well. You know, it's a lot of money at stake. We keep talking about it's a lot of money for Rangers. It's a lot of money for them as well. So they've got to respond to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dutch football, PSV Eindhoven, they've got a good pedigree. Ruud van Nistelrooy is very much in the embryonic stage of his tenure as manager, so it'll be interesting to see what ploy he adopts. But if I was looking at it in balancing, I hoped Rangers would win 2-1 at home to take something to defend. I have a fear that this is a step too far in their own backyard.
Well, the template for Rangers last year was pretty simple. It was, you know, do okay away from home, except for Dortmund, where they did spectacularly well. Come to Ibrox and win.
Yeah.
And that was the template, and they executed it perfectly. Now it's a reversal, obviously, of ties, and they've not really taken anything to go away with, you know. But it's so finely balanced. I thought, I listened to Ruud van Nistelrooy on the television after the game last week, and I thought he summed the game up perfectly. He was really honest about it. You know, the way Rangers had played, the way his team had played, you know, etc., etc. And what he was saying, that it was a 50-50, and he still believed, going to Eindhoven, he was honest enough to say, yeah, the balance is us now. We're playing at home. We've got to draw away. He says, but it's, you know, he says maybe 55-50, maybe 45 for us, 60-40.
Yeah.
He said, well, we're not really strong favourites.
The one thing about it is you deal with the evidence, and as you said, your eyes don't deceive you. If you look at the evidence, Rangers are more than capable, because of what they did last season, of going there and actually getting the win.
Well, you're looking at Giovanni, and he's got a great knowledge of Dutch football. He'll know a lot about PSV. I think he's shown in the past, he's changed his shape, away from home, change of formations, hitting on the counter. I think he's done that very well in the past. So I think he'll have a tactical game plan going into this, obviously, but it's all managers have. But I think if there's anybody that can get it right, it's Gio, if I'm honest.
You tipping him?
I think it's going to be difficult. I think I'd like to give you that tip after 15-20 minutes, if I'm honest, because then that shows you where the game's going. But I think they're well within the tie, and I think I want them to go through.
Yeah, I think we all want them to get through, because the one thing about it that a lot of people don't realise, Alan Burrows came out and said it last week.
Solidarity money.
Everybody gets money, don't they?
But again, we're getting 2 teams in the Champions League group stages. It's like, for me, right, so even going into league games, the more European fixtures Celtic and Rangers can play helps us domestically, helps us, gives us a wee bit of an added edge going into the games. They're travelling all over Europe playing in high profile games, so it gives us a wee bit of an edge going into these games. But the money and the profile it brings into Scottish football is fantastic. I think there's a split between Europa and Champions League, and the solidarity money, it's 20% Europa, 80% used to go Champions League. But we've never been fortunate enough over the last 4 or 5 years to qualify for the Champions League money. It's maybe a bit different now with the Conference League. There's maybe a wee bit coming into that, but the majority of the money coming out of UEFA's through the Champions League, and it's going to benefit every Scottish club, not just the ones in the Premier League, because there's maybe teams like ourselves, at Maron Kilmarnock, Motherwell's, all these, maybe we're getting a bit of money coming into the club that's then you can spend in the Championship League 1 and League 2. You can reinvest that into your squad, hopefully into Scottish football. Yeah, well, it's a big one, it's a big call for us, and of course, not only are we talking about Rangers, but if Hearts could do it now, I don't know about you, I thought they played well in the first leg, Davey. I couldn't believe it. I was 1-0 up when I picked my daughter up for dancing. It was about 10-15 minutes later, came back and they were 2-1 down. Yeah. And that they were decent as well, but you're up against decent teams. The problem, not a problem, but with Hearts, have not got a lot of European experience within the club. I.e. Rangers and Celtic are in European football. They're playing Saturday or Sunday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, they're playing consistently. And I think that it's all new to Hearts, and I think they'll be better for having that experience. on the return leg, I think they'll be better versed for that as well.
Yeah, I think they can do it there at home.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think if you ask everybody in the Premiership, you know, Tynecastle's a place, if you come away with something there, you've done particularly well and your players have performed well. So it's something that Zurich haven't experienced either. So they'll get a wee, I'm not afraid, but their eyes will be open at the hostile environment that they've got to deal with. And again, if Hearts were to score first, you would fancy them.
Yeah. Do you fancy them, Hugh?
I do actually, because I thought the big problem for Hearts last week was losing Halkett. You know, I don't. It's just, and the way they lost him as well. They couldn't very quickly. They lose a guy to Hammy, but they couldn't adapt quickly enough to lose. It wasn't just the fact of losing Hammy, who's a huge player for them. It was the transition into changing, you know, and
shape,
the shape, and I mean, and that's how they lost the goals, because Halkett wasn't there.
Yeah, he would have been in the areas. He'd have been throwing his body in.
He'd have been. I mean, the guy's not going to nudge Halkett off the ball in the air. You know, you get that wee volley. So yeah, I think they've got. I mean, by the way, that is a game to be at this week, isn't it? Hearts 18,000, Gorgie, in with a shout. That'll be a great night.
And the other thing about it, David, that a lot of people will not realise, which is why I hope they can do it, it maybe has implications for the benefit of Hearts. It's £7 million. It could transform that club.
They could go and spend that money, reinvest that in Scottish football, but the further Hearts go helps the coefficient, it helps the solidarity money into everybody else, so it's got huge implications for everyone. But I think we're sitting here, Celtic are in the Champions League group stages, brilliant, Rangers have got a chance and Hearts have got a chance, and I think we're in a great place. Probably over, historically, maybe going back 5-6 years, would you be sitting here with as much hope? I'm not sure we would be.
Yeah.
We'd be hoping they'd done it, but I think there's a realistic opportunity that both clubs could be playing Europa group stage and Champions League.
You got your nose pressed against the window. I bet you would love to test your knowledge and your expertise in that arena.
It's a totally different scale, but we played Crusaders in the Cup, and it was like European football for us, because we went over there and for 60 minutes didn't really know a lot about them, and then they changed the shape to go into the game. Then we had to play them again, obviously, when the tie got rearranged. But it was very, very similar. It was a great experience. It tests it really takes you out your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, the way things are going, you might be contemplating that. We'll talk about Livingston and what you hope to achieve. So fingers crossed. Thanks to so many people who are on the live feed. Hearts will go through, says Stephen McNeil. Johnny says Rangers to sneak it 2-1. My head says either a draw in extra time and penalties, which is your favourite, Ruffy. Everybody biting their nails. But nevertheless, we wait to see what they're going to do. Fingers crossed. If you've got a question you'd like to put to David, by all means, fire it out in the feed, and providing you're keeping the heat, we'll try and stick a few out to David. What I want to talk about, not only in Livingston, but it was a tough weekend for you. We're not going to be two-faced about it. It was a terrible decision. We'll take the flak, because I don't think any of us will get fined for it, but it was a weekend of, I thought, of poor refereeing, but yours particularly, to lose a game with something that just everybody knows wasn't a penalty. You must have been going into a darkened room and battering your head off a wall.
It was difficult. For the camera angle we had in the changing room, you could tell it wasn't a penalty, because he froze his arm up and you can't see the ball hitting his body, but you can definitely see the ball's not hit his arm. So we knew then when we got the camera angles for the footage, you could tell it 100% never hit his body. I think it's disappointing to lose a game of football from a big decision like that. To be fair to Motherwell, I don't think we've done enough within the game to take 3 points. But I think for both teams, a 0-0, a clean sheet and a point each would have been a fairer outcome. So to lose it in the manner we did is really disappointing.
Yeah, especially down to a penalty. And sometimes people think, oh, well, you just have to suck it up. And I hate it when somebody says that evens itself out. It's just a lot of nonsense.
The fact that, some celestial deity saying we'll have to give Livingston a penalty next week. It's just nonsense.
This McCart handball last year at St Johnstone. Do you remember that one? We never got to pen, we score it, we get a point. That's us probably getting top 6 at that point. Potentially European football. So I'm still waiting on this evening itself out.
I mean, it's just nonsense. The thing that is really disappointing about the decision is, I always remember it was a Hibs Hearts game, and Lee Griffiths hit a free kick, and high in the press box, you could see it was a mile over the line. It bounced and then you could see it. The referee and the linesman didn't give it, and I was okay with that because they didn't. They maintained they didn't see it.
Yeah.
And you go to say, well, they can't think it's over and give a goal. That's what this decision is about, because it's obvious it hasn't hit his hand. So what is the assistant referee seen? That's, you know what I mean, I could get him missing the handball.
Yeah.
I didn't see. But if it doesn't hit his hand, how's he get, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
I
think he's seen it for the reaction of the Motherwell
but that's when you can't give a decision.
He's obviously not seen
penalty's
it
got to be 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the most galling thing of the whole situation must have been it was a VAR trial game.
I know, but we loves looking for the screen.
They were actually trying it out.
Yeah, but
50 mile away.
I mean, listen, the one thing I was saying, it's not going to eliminate it. We all know that. It's going to give you a greater percentage of correct decisions.
You get more wrong than you're getting right, but we'll still be debating it because there's still going to be contentious decisions. Like, you could maybe sit on the couch and you look at maybe the Lundstrom red card, you'd maybe say it was a red, I'd say it was a yellow. Then you look at the 2 yellow cards that we got in the game, you'd maybe say 2 soft yellow cards that led to us end off. So you're still going to get that dubiety, which you don't mind, but it's the clear and obvious errors that are the galling ones.
I mean, because that is just like, that is what VAR is there for. I mean, the interesting thing about VAR and the whole Lundstrom thing is that if VAR had been there, is there a case for Willie Collum going and looking? You know, even if the referee had, you know, VAR said, listen, Willie, go and have a look at this red card. Collum might go over and go, you know, it's still a red card.
Yeah.
But it could be rescinded now.
Yeah.
It could be rescinded by a judicial panel. Many people think it will be, but it could be rescinded. So the VAR is not going to end controversy. It might even add.
Yeah.
We're sitting talking about VR, but I think probably, and if you look at our game, anybody watching that screen, they simply can't give a penalty.
Because it's not.
It's not, so you're going to get, hopefully, these decisions.
Yeah.
That's a matter of fact. That was decision. It was not a matter of interpretation. It was a matter of fact.
Well, listen, I can't wait for it to come in, because I think, you know, you'll get a smaller percentage of things which are still going to be a pub argument, and we're still going to go, how did the guys in the van not pick that up? And they've got all the angles on it as well.
When it comes in, you'll get all that backdated.
I'll write, absolutely. Send a wee letter,
or because you know, because of the area we all grew up in, they'll be questioning who they supported in the van for VAR.
There'll be vans with punctures
and bricks.
Absolutely, but nevertheless, listen, we've got to move to it, because it's doing not only your head in but a lot of people's heads in. Ruffy, the standard of refereeing is poor. Over the weekend, I think a lot of referees, you know, definitely need help. But the overall standard must be difficult, David, because Willie Collum or any other referee hasn't been at a major tournament. They're just not cutting it.
I didn't know that.
And they're not. Well, they're not at European Championships. They're not at World Cups. So the next batch through have to be better. There has to be this meeting of minds. I know that the referees sometimes call the managers at the start of the season to get together and explain how
we've done that. We've done that this year. We've had that meeting, Crawford Allen, and there's a few refs come in. We spoke about VAR and stuff like that. But I do think the game's a lot quicker now. I do, honestly. You've got probably a wee bit more simulation in the game also. And I think VAR's going to really, really help the referees. It will help them get more decisions correct. So it's going to develop the referees as well.
Yeah. Did you speak to him? Did you have to speak to him? Did you get angry about it?
Stared at him for 10 minutes. I try not to, if I'm honest, because it's not going to make a blind bit of difference.
No.
Like, I knew it wasn't Nick that gave the decision because of the delay. And obviously, the assistant referee, he's thought it's hit his hand, so I could go over and argue and tell him, but the guy genuinely would have thought, no, I don't believe for 1 minute there's bias and there's cheating.
No.
I don't believe that. So the guy's obviously thought that it was a handball. In retrospect, it wasn't.
Does Crawford phone you, or do you phone him?
I email Crawford.
Right, okay.
I think he had a busy weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
The interesting thing about the weekend, Peter, is if you look at the refereeing appointments for the weekend, normally, you know, even a season ago, you could go through the refereeing appointments and you could go Clancy, Collum, Beaton, Madden, Walsh, Don, Robertson, right? That'd be your 6. At the weekend, there's a lot of new referees coming through. I mean, the only ones that you could, hang your hat in for, maybe Walsh is just coming through, but was Willie Collum would be the major one, and Nick Walsh and Clancy. Yeah. There's 3 new referees coming, and the big story I think about Scottish football that VAR's obscuring at the moment is what we're doing with referees, and how we're handling referees and how we're preparing them. And I think there has to be an whole overhaul of how we're doing, even getting an outside force, not into referee games, but an outside force into advisors. Why are we not getting referees to the very elite level?
Yeah. The other thing I enjoyed about the down south, and I know it's difficult for us because we're always looking down at the level that's down there, David, but the referees there are trying to let the game flow.
I've noticed that this year. I've even seen it on the commentator, and they're saying, last year that would have been a foul.
Yeah.
So they're trying to let the game flow, which I think potentially needs to happen. I think there's an element of that. Like, I'll hark back to our game, but I can only really commentate on what I've seen. I think no every tackle's a yellow card. It seems to be nearly now every tackle's a yellow card.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a part of the game that we need to try and stamp out.
Yeah, I've got a few things I want to get your thoughts on about what you would change. Do you, as a manager with a provincial club, looking at it, think is the five substitutes rule must be a real headache when you start seeing Rangers and Celtic pulling one after the other off the bench?
I voted against it last year.
Did you?
So I voted against it last year. First game, Ibrox, used my 3 subs, and 2 went down injured. Ended up with 9 men at the end of the game. But I based that decision on trying to be smart. So what would give me a wee bit of an advantage over Rangers and Celtic? Do you know what's best for Livingston Football Club is the 5 subs, because it lets me get fresh legs on the park. So when we done was it a revote later on in the season,
you changed your mind
for the 5, because I tried to take it away from what benefited the bigger clubs. I thought, what's best for Livingston? And what's best for Livingston at that point was try to get as many new players on the park as I can, but it also gives you a wee bit more continuity, opposed to, like, if you're sitting there with 20 and 9 on the bench and 3 can get on. A lot of disgruntled players as well. Yeah. So having the opportunity to bring another 2 players in to get some game time. I think at one point was it with concussion subs you could have something like 7 or something.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That.
You could come off for 5 minutes.
So I changed my vote.
Yeah, interesting. Just before we get some more thoughts from Ruffy, Hugh and David, we always like to throw in a wee quiz question. I was watching Liverpool against Manchester United last night, and I was thinking about the Premier League since it started in 1992. There are, in this quiz question, there are 6 clubs that have never been relegated from the English Premier League since 1992. I wonder if you can rhyme them off. 6 clubs have never been relegated from the Premier League in England since 1992. We'll give you the answer at the end of the programme today. If you could change something in Scottish football for the betterment of it, is there something that you really would like to see?
Probably VAR introduced as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I think.
When have you been told the date for that is?
Before the World Cup, but it could get fast-tracked a wee bit quicker, but it's around it for it coming back after the World Cup. So whenever the World Cup ends, it's December 12th.
Just before Christmas.
Something like along the lines, but I think we need to try and get into Scottish football as quick as possible.
Yeah. Do you model yourself on any particular manager? Is there someone that's given you the inspiration, or someone that you've looked at, you've thought, I'll take a wee bit of him and a wee bit of him?
I've not really had the benefit of working, like coming through professional football clubs and having the benefit of, he was my gaffer, he was a gaffer, he was a coach, that type of thing. Yeah. I've not had that benefit, so it's just kind of been an evolution with people that I've worked with at Livingston. Hoppy was a big influence on me. Hoppy was probably the first one that gave me an opportunity to coach properly on the park in terms of taking sessions myself. Yeah. Whereas maybe with John McGlynn and Mark Burchill, I was just assisting them. But when Hoppy came in, it was generally me and Hoppy that took every training session, or we divided the boys up into that. So I take a lot of Hoppy. When you look at Hoppy's career, he had a fantastic footballing career down south. Yeah.
Good lad, David Hopkin. Got to ask you this then. You suddenly are thrust in as the manager. I mean, there must have been a moment when even you sense you're thinking some of the players are going, aye, right.
No, not really, no. I was doing to look at that point in time, like me and Hoppy done everything together. Yeah. Holty came in, me and Holty done everything together. I'm now in, and it's me and Marvin that do everything. I've got another coach in now, Neely's in helping us out as well. So really my job remit only really changed where I sat and done media.
Were you at any point thinking, was there a wee moment of fear of thinking, okay, I've got my hands on the wheel now?
No, not really, because my job description never changed. My title changed. My job description never really changed.
Did the football that you wanted to play change?
No.
No,
because it was still a lot of my coaching ideals and coaching philosophies that had been organically developed through probably getting relegated to League One.
Yeah.
So me and Hoppy done it together. Me and Holty done it together. Me and Marvin now do it together. So not really.
I'm glad you said that, because quite simply we live in a cynical world at the other end of the media where people are going, wait a minute, David Martindale, back catalogue, back story, he's never going to cut it, because that's the way life is, and some people look at it that way.
Although I think there's a greater realisation now, not just amongst the media but amongst players, that it doesn't really quite matter the way it once did, that have the pedigree.
Yeah, I think if you look at a generation of managers, I think to be a manager you used to have played professional football.
Yeah.
But you now look at some of the top managers in the world, Mourinho, there's more Klopp, people like that. They've not played top level football.
Arrigo Sacchi.
Yeah, there's a lot more of them now. But they're academic coaches. I think they had a good academic background.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I spoke to Sean Maloney, who obviously was a very, very talented player, technically excellent. And I said to him, how do you teach, when he was with Belgium? I said, how did you coach De Bruyne? He says, De Bruyne's dead easy to coach. He says, because if De Bruyne thinks you can teach him anything at all about winning that game or about the opposition, he's on board. The problem is, he says, if De Bruyne finds out you can, that's a problem. But De Bruyne doesn't care if you played for Celtic or you played for Whitehill Welfare. He wants to know, do you know enough about the opposition? Where can I hurt the opposition? What can I do? Bayern?
Well, you're the classic example of it. I mean, of the managers that you worked under, and even at international level, World Cups, there must have been someone that you just, when he opened his mouth, you were like...
It has to be Jock Stein. It has to be Jock. Was so thorough. Team talks were, before the games, were an hour, maybe an hour, 15 minutes. Every player, opposition, individually through strengths and weaknesses. You came out the room knowing you've got a head start.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know who the players, say we were playing Sweden or Norway. We didn't know who they were, but he had spent so much time, and sharing it, and the individual touch as well. He would pull you aside and all that kind of stuff. That was good man management then. You know, but he's at the top.
Yeah, Lee Johnson says he's got an app where he's got all these, little nuggets from managers.
So that's called Google.
Is there anything that's made you change a wee bit?
No, I think my academic background, I've always been fairly intelligent, believe it or not. But I went to university and that changed the way I thought. So when I came into football, we put a lot of detail into our coaching programmes. So I've always been we do a SWOT analysis. I do a SWOT analysis on the opponents. It's a thorough scout reports, and then that leads into your Monday session, your Tuesday session. So we do put a lot of detail in, but I think my academic background helped me package that and put it into a package, remember, that players can understand.
Yeah.
That's the big one. Players have got to be able to understand it, and then you've got to transfer that onto coaching it on the park. How do you do that? It's all right saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You need to coach you guys. You need to coach you guys, but they need to get that information. But I think players are now roughly are more receptive to that as well. I tell them to study, I tell them to take notes, and video analysis, you probably never took notes in video analysis. But when I went to study at university, I had to take notes, because I remembered more. If I write something down, I've got a potential to remember it 60% more than I would if I just listened. So we encourage the players to take notes in video analysis. Why wouldn't they?
See, David, if you're talking about, learning, you're a man that's been in full-time education. See, outside football, was there anybody, a mentor or anybody you read about outside football who's actually impacted on you and the way you look at football?
Probably not. No, that I can off the top of my head think it. Just you're looking at my life was I wasn't involved in football, played football, but it was constantly football. All my spare time was devoted to football, whether I was a football fan or playing football or coaching football at a lower level. So just looking at the more modern managers.
Can you imagine the asset way back then if we had video analysis in my time? You'd be studying Zico's free kicks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'd be
absolutely.
studying Kubi's hitting
Yeah.
the ball outside his
Absolutely.
foot. You would know what would be coming up.
Again, you would the drinking culture probably back then, smoking, the hydration, the nutrition, like all these things have gave a modern day player added benefits or small marginal gains.
Yep.
I think if you were
And
doing
the
that
rules,
back then,
and the rules changes as well.
Yeah.
your wages
What would you have
were
done? What would
Ruffy.
you have done? What would you have done if you John Robertson? He's on the back of the bus.
I say, Robbo,
Give the ball.
Robbo, if you score 3 a day, you can smoke as much as you want.
Can I just say something? Yeah, I'm glad you said that, right? Because I was down in, as you know, Brian Clough's house, and we were sitting for it was just the best time of my life. The camera with him, and he said, you know, he would just turn around and he'd say to me, if we're under pressure, he says, I just turn around to the players at half time and say, listen,
Take Monday off.
give the ball to the tramp. Give the ball to the tramp. He will go past 2 or 3 players and he'll win us the game. And John Robertson won us the game.
Aye, but you look at it now, like, I think we can complicate as coaches, we can complicate football.
Yeah.
It's changed, but it's no changed. Still we're trying to do the same thing.
There's only one technicality that Ruffy never mentioned to you there. You talked about going on Google. If there was all of that technology available to Ruffy, they wouldn't have wasted time buying too big a ladder to get out of the room so they could all go on the bevy in the World Cup and wouldn't get caught.
And I was talking to her, it wouldn't be the first time we'd be going to an international game, we'd be in the bus and Robert would be up the back and Kenny Dalglish would go, this bus is on fire. Somebody set the bus on fire. And man would be up the back, give me phone. He's smoking.
It's funny saying that because he's brought a book in for me that had been nipping his brain for about 5 weeks to bring in Johan Cruyff.
Right.
So he's brought his autobiography in. And Cruyff smoked like a chimney.
Oh, Cruyff was smoking. But the whole, that
era.
a lot of the Dutch players smoked. I mean, like Kaiser.
The Brazilians as well, but you used to say, who was it?
Socrates, who was actually a doctor as well as a great player, smoked.
Yeah.
I mean,
Crazy.
and there was a feeling like there's a lot of players would use it. And Cruyff himself would say, immensely intelligent man. He says, no, it helped me with the stress. Where everything will tell you nowadays, physiologically, smoking increases the stress hormones. But he said, no, I needed a fag to
Probably
calm
the
down.
tranquility of that moment.
Exactly,
That was
getting
their
away.
moment.
And that was the amazing thing about Cruyff. One of the great takeaways for that book is Cruyff is just such a cool guy, you know, in every way, was how nervous he was.
Yeah, I can't wait to read it. The one thing I was going to say to you, and everybody knows your backstory and life-changing moments for you. So do you feel with that backstory of, you know, being in jail and coming out, do you feel any kind of, I don't know, a responsibility or, you know, something in your life, a vocation in life to say, I'm going to go and pass on something to somebody else? Do you do that? Do people look to you to
I think a lot of players are coming from working class backgrounds and they're coming for, maybe not so much now, but they're coming for poverty. So you will get the odd player coming speaking to you about maybe their uncle, their dad, their mum, their dad. So I think I've got a different skill set in that respect for other managers where I've got different life skills.
Yeah.
That I've unfortunately or fortunately I've gained them throughout my life, the experience. So I've got that as a wee bit different from your normal manager, which helps on the man management side.
Yeah. But do you feel, do you have a sense of, because you're so immersed in the game now, which is great, do you away from it sometimes think, oh, I'll go away and try and inspire a certain type of person?
No,
because I think you're an inspiration to some
I
people.
wouldn't enforce my opinions on people, but I got a lot of people writing me from prison.
Right.
So I'll reply to that and I'll try and give them the benefit of my advice or the benefit of my experience. So if somebody comes and wants to speak about that,
Yeah.
I've done a couple of prison visits where I went in and spoke to prisoners, that type of thing. So if it's there and somebody asks for it, yeah, but do I go out my way to try and enforce that? Probably not.
Yeah. Here's the question that I've asked myself about the way you're playing, the way the team's ending up, and the way your life is going now. What's the ambition? Because Livingston, for me, no disrespect to the club, it's great for you. It could be a great stepping stone.
Everybody says that, but I think the unique selling point for Livingston when I've got a player sitting in the office is say, come and use me as a stepping stone. But then when they start seeing it as a stepping stone and they're coming into work not to be at their work because they want to be elsewhere, you lose that 10% focus. So I try not to think about too much about the future. I think my life, how my life would change, it would come from Robert and John. Robert's chairman, John's the chief executive, and if a day comes that anybody ever bigger came in for me, I think it would be their decision, no mine.
Yeah.
And if you say, Davey, I still want you at the club, I wouldn't walk out in Livingston Football Club.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that part of it, I think a lot of players will thrive on that, because there's the integrity of you then trying to sell it to players to come in and play for you as well.
Well, you use Big Noobs for an example. He came up here for non-league, and there's a very, very good chance if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to be playing his football at a much higher level than Livingston in terms of probably the English Championship. He's got that profile. But I tell them, come into your work every day to do well for Livingston. Forget it. I think it'll take care of itself. You live in the moment, the future takes care of itself. And that's what I try and do with them. And that's how I coach, and that's how every day just going to work to do what's best for Livingston Football Club. Yeah,
and with that in mind, I mean, I know, I might as well tell you, Dick was raging that you didn't let him stay at Arbroath. Nobody's one of those players. You know, there are some players in life that come along and you think, oof, you know, maybe a wee bit unorthodox, but he just looks dangerous at times. You know, he's proved to be a handful.
Oh, he's been brilliant. He came away for us for 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm not sure he's a winger, he's a number 9. So I'm going to take a wee chance on this boy, but I don't think he's going to play for me now.
Yeah. Did you get him from Aldershot?
Got him, well, he was out of contract at the time.
Right.
He was over in Spain with us, and he trained for us a week before we went away to Spain, and a week in Spain. And I thought, I'll take a wee chance on him. So I phoned Dick, I said, because Dick's perfect for me, but Livingston and Arbroath, because they're part-time. There were 2, Dick and Ian, who know the game inside out, who will enforce the work ethic, the working class values that the fans are looking for in a football player. They'll enforce them, it'll adapt them to Scottish football, but I'd have them every day of the week. And the 2 of them, it kind of married up very well there. Yeah. But I knew he wouldn't play every week for me. So put him out and took him back in the January. Done brilliant for Arbroath. Took him back in the January, played him wide right, wide left for us last year, because Bruce Anderson had a rich vein of form, and Bruce would be scoring goals. And it wasn't to the tail end of the season when Bruce got an ankle injury that I had to move him back in as a number 9, because I always seen his career as a number 9. He fitted the profile of what we were looking for. Done very similar with London. He had the same kind of attributes, but different in the respect as London was probably better than air, but Joe was better in a dribbling sense and getting at his an opponent. So, but they had very, very similar profiles.
Yeah, you like him, don't you, Ruffy?
Yeah, we used to phone Livingston and say, take him back, for God's sake. How long when you take him? You don't take him back for January. We've got up. He just, our defenders just couldn't handle him. He had too much upper body strength and technical ability, as you saw with that goal he scored a couple of weeks when he picks the ball up and. You know, his
balance is incredible. He's got 2 great feet. He's really quick, and this is what I want defenders to get tight on Joe. Yeah, because you get tight on him, he'll spin you because he's really, really quick. But if you drop off him, he can also play, and he'll get at you. So it's a difficult one for a defender, because normally you've not got both attributes. 6'3", can go in behind and can link up, and he's got all the attributes. And then if he can add goals to his game, which I'm more than sure we're capable of doing between us.
How important is, I just pick up on that point that you made there, you're talking about values, working class attitude, your attitude towards grafting, the way the game has evolved and changed. How important is the character of a person for you when you're trying to recruit them?
Huge.
You know, is it still huge?
Huge.
Yeah.
I've had some fantastic football players at the club, but they just don't buy into the work ethic we've got at the club. So it's probably time for them to move on. I think I would rather go for someone who's got the correct attitude. Sometimes what you find in football, you get players that are a wee bit entitled. They think they're doing you a favour. Yeah. Which, if you think you're doing Livingston a favour, you're at the wrong club. Yeah. I thought you were going to bite for Lee Griffiths. Lee Griffiths is a sad story. I thought you might have just taken a wee bite at him. Do you know what? I didn't need Lee Griffiths, but I wanted to help Lee Griffiths. And everybody in football I spoke to said he's a great lad. And I said, Lee, come in and use me, and I'll help you get fitter. And he came in, he wasn't in for very long, maybe a week, but you could see he'd lost a lot of weight. his fitness, he still had to work on it, because he'd be doing pre-season, he's selling, no matter what anybody tells you, when you're doing pre-season yourself, it's totally different if you're doing a pre-season with a group of boys.
Yeah.
Some of his finishing, that was incredible. He's absolutely incredible, some of his stuff. I think there's a lot of value in Lee Griffiths as a coach, and taking on his experiences and his movements and the way he sees the game. Because no matter what you think about Lee Griffiths, I think as a number 9, he was very, very intelligent. You've got to be. You can't not be to play the level he had and do the things that Lee done.
It's an interesting insight into you, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's that thing as well about football intelligence is no intellectual intelligence, and there's hugely intelligent footballers, you know, that people would say, well, haven't they been smart in other areas of life? And you could see with Griffiths he was an intelligent footballer. See the amount of times he made the right channel run, the amount of times he decided to shoot very, very early, but the shot would be precision more than strength.
His touch out his body, when he's receiving the ball, his touch is going on his left foot, the way he positions his body. We're doing these striker drills and I was doing stuff and he was doing slightly different movements. And I'm saying, what are you doing that for? Oh, I do that, I didn't think my link-up was very good. I'm like, what? I thought your link-up was great, a great touch. But he was trying to play in the shoulder behind defenders because he wasn't overly sure on his link-up. But his movement was fantastic.
Yeah. See, the other thing as well, David, you've been working football, see that technical ability, just that beauty of the way he could hit a ball. See, that's the way he hit a ball.
I think that comes to a lot of playing street football. Growing up, juvenile football, I think sometimes I'm looking at players, and I've said it a few times, like, use a Gascoigne for example, are they coming through an academy now? Is it getting overcoached? Is it getting coached out of them? I genuinely believe that is happening in football.
Well, do you coach it out of them?
I'm not in the academy structure, we've only just got the academy. But
if you've got a boy who's got a great touch, got a wee bit of a skill, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't, but I've not really took the same pathway as maybe other coaches have.
Yeah.
And then at academies, you're maybe getting academies and themes, you're getting given your coaching themes. That's your coaching themes this week. This is what you're doing, because it's all got to lead up into the first team, so everybody's doing the same things. I'm saying you're not getting the same characters coming through in football. Are they out playing with the schools? Are they out playing with the counties? Are they out playing with Scotland schools? Are they out playing with their pals in the street? I don't think they are now. So that creativity and the intuition that they're learning on the streets playing with their pals it's now, you're not getting that, you're getting it 3-4 nights a week in the academy into specific drills.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 things I want to pick your brains on and get the boys' thoughts on before we go. Listen, you had 7th last season, you took some good scalps along the way. You know, I think Celtic, Aberdeen, Hibs. This season, are you a better team?
I think we've got a better squad. I think we've got more squad depth, more quality in the squad depth. Last year, we had 15 players leave the building. We'd hit that 3-year period where we had to get, I'm going to say Deadwood, that's a wee bit disrespectful to the players that left the club, but it was a lot of boys at the club that probably had to move on. So we had 15 players leave the club. I lost my assistant manager, I lost my goalie coach, so I lost 2 key members of the coaching staff. We lost a lot of continuity out the club, and it took us a while to get going and get the coaching methods into the players. What I would say is I think we're better this year because we've kept that continuity in the building, and we've added to that squad of 6 or 7 quality players that are going to take time to coach and develop, but they're not having to play right now. So we kept the continuity, we've got better squad depth. So yeah, I believe we're a better team.
Was your goalkeeping situation a wee bit of worry? Because the first goalkeeper match that you had, it was sensational.
Who was that? Sorry,
the foreign boys. The
But
the first year you had them,
it was him and Robbie. We had him and Robbie, so they kind of intertwined. If Max's consistency dropped, Max could play top, but Max probably never lived his life right away for the football club. Different type of culture, and you've probably seen it with Boric. There's a different, maybe a wee bit of a drinking culture there with the Polish as well, coming into British football. But I think Max is now in a place where he knows he's definitely got the ability. He's down in League One with a top League One club that are pushing for the championship, so he's got a chance. Is it a wee bit of worry? Probably a wee bit of worry, but it's getting that consistency. Max in his days are 10, but unfortunately there's probably a wee bit of his 4s and 5s thrown in there. Whereas you ask any football manager, it's all about trust. you need the consistency on the park.
Yeah, I did Boric's tribute dinner, and all his family won the raffle, and there wasn't, you couldn't have marked him with a blowtorch. The whole table, they won all the raffle prizes. And he thought, that's fantastic. and Big Arthur's just waving at me, and they walked away with all the prizes.
Like a drink, did they not?
Oh, for God's sake, man, he was a great lad though. He was just, he was right out of left field. As many goalkeepers as you see here are from a certain cut from a certain cloth. Anyway, apart from anything else, couple of wee things I want to get your thoughts on it. We talked about Livingston. Have you got the signings you want? Is there any more to come in?
Probably looking for one more, and unless my door goes and somebody chaps the door to go out and loan, maybe look at another one, but I'm looking for one more offensive player.
Right, we talk continually about players that we loved watching down through the years. I mean, there's a guy behind you there that was an absolute magician. Ruffy played with him in Coop. What type of players, who was your hero?
Davey Cooper.
Was it?
Davey Cooper. I loved watching Davey Cooper. That was when I was growing up. So I'm 1974 I was born, so I can remember Davey Cooper very well. But then when you probably get a wee bit more knowledgeable about football, Cooper's out, the Rangers, like that Rangers era, because I grew up a Rangers fan. I was born in Govan. I used to play outside the Ibrox. Yeah, I grew up a Rangers fan, but I used to love watching Larsson. We've spoke about Moravcik, Nakamura. There's loads of these, Cadet, DeCanio. There's loads of Gascoigne, Loudrop, all that kind of era. So, but Davey Cooper was probably the first one. Davey Cooper and Kenny Dalglish, probably the first ones that you'd be watching the telly, watching them, the Panini sticker albums, try to replicate what they done.
You were born in 1974. He's got the 1974 World Cup Panini album in there.
Full.
That's your night. That's your Tuesday night.
One,
Did you not?
Never had enough money to fill one.
You've got to get it. I'm going to show you before you get away. But no, Cooper's just outrageous. I mean, a great story that I always tell Ruffy about, but because I worked with Sandy Jardine in Edinburgh, and he was my co-commentator, and we had great laughs together. Sandy had a brilliant dry sense of humour, but he said, the driver of Cup, Peter, he says, I've scored the best goal he said I've ever scored. He said, I've gone past about 3 Celtic players, I've ran the length of the pitch, he says, and then I've scalped it into the roof of the net, and he says, it's just a great goal. He says, and all I can think about is, after the match, I'm going to be in the back pages, I'll buy all the papers, my mum and dad will be delighted. He says 2 minutes later, the ball's thrown to Cooper, he lifts it over 3 Celtic players' heads, puts it on his chest, side foots into the back of the net, steals the show, and
Sandy should take a wee bit of the kudos for that. He's put demands on Cooper.
How would you handle him in your Livy team, Cooper?
Cooper, what do you want to do today? Give him the ball. I'm saying, see that work ethic, I'd have probably let him slide with that one.
Absolutely.
Stay up there.
Don't bother putting that GPS thing on.
He doesn't need that. Put that on the dog, get him 10k.
Listen, by the way, 6 clubs that haven't been relegated from the Premier League. You want to have a stab at it?
Man United's got to be one of them.
Yep.
Chelsea.
Yep.
Liverpool.
Yep.
Everton.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it just me doing this? You like this, Ruffy?
Tottenham.
Oh, good shout, Ruffy. I thought you were going to be
that
toiling
on
that
5?
sheet. You're on
Tottenham.
5. Yep.
I think of that era.
Another one must be a wee dodgy one.
I'm thinking West Ham, but I think he might have been doing.
No.
Arsenal.
Thank you. There you are. Davey, you did absolutely fantastic.
I'm terrible at stuff like that.
No, sure, you get 5 out of 6 here. I think Ruffy joined in and he was just there sitting on the couch at the end of it. Listen, it's been an absolute joy. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved having a chat with you, picking your brains about, the job. Hopefully you're going to go on to bigger and better things. No disrespect to the Livingston chairman and the board, but I think what you're achieving so far is certainly absolutely magnificent.
Thanks very much.
Fingers crossed we get you back in here, David, at some point. But it was a joy to speak to you. Thoroughly enjoyed it, Ruffy, as well. You never know, but before he gets out, there's going to be a couple of players that you might be able to snaffle for the Jags.
Colley's budget's gone. A few days to go, the door will probably get chapped.
I was looking at Jack McMullen, Danny Mullen, Tiff, wee Tiff. There's a few, wee Stephen, wee Steph. So,
Good players.
Anyway,
fingers crossed. Livy fans have got an insight, looking for one more player. And of course, you look at the achievements of last season, you never know. It'd be great to finish off with European football this season, wouldn't it?
Great, but that point on Saturday would have helped.
Good to know he's let it go. Thanks to David Martindale, Livingston manager from Roughy, Hugh McDonald and myself, Peter Martin. Join us tomorrow if you can. Thanks for watching.